This is the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for today. It is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015. We're coming to you live from the studios of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report here in Northwest Pennsylvania. I'm Doug Hagmann at the helm with fellow investigator, researcher, and most importantly, my son Joe Hagmann. Together, we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, America's premier father-son investigative reporting team. Our job is to bring you the news that propels the headlines, the news that is twisted and shaped and convoluted and hidden amid a funhouse of smoke and mirrors in the carnival we call the corporate media. Now, we do the headline and news triage so you don't have to. We bring forth cutting-edge guests, and we have one on the line here that we're going to be introducing to you momentarily. We want to thank all of our new listeners, all of our veteran listeners. Thank you for being with us for so long, and thank you for tuning in to the new listeners. Thank you for tuning in to us, and thank you for checking in with us from all over the world. Just for the sake of the new listeners, I just want to remind everyone that we broadcast live Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Our home base is on the internet at hagmannandhagmann.com. Folks, you can access us live there, as well as all of our past shows, our social networking sites, and most importantly, our original investigative reports. Tonight is going to be an extremely important first segment, followed by Stan Deyo in the second hour, and then the third hour, some additional news, information, and analysis. But first, before I bring Joe on, I just want to tell everyone here, the TPA passed, of course, passed the Senate. Ultimately, what happened today, folks, most importantly, is the American people, have allowed our elected representatives, provide really unprecedented power. Now, I know. I understand that the TPA has been around for a long time, but in this case, it's unprecedented, the level of power that this Congress, as the legislators have provided to Barack Hussein Obama, Barry Soetoro in the White House. It's really today marks the official end of our national sovereignty, in my estimation, and the verification of this uniparty fascist state. And I'm sorry to say it, there's no other way of sugarcoating it. There's no way of sugarcoating it. America has right now taken a fatal blow. Compliments of the people, the treasonous, seditionist, but bastards in the White House, or in the Capitol. And now, if you're offended by that, no apologies extended. Because I'll tell you something, our fate has really been sealed by today's events. Equally important, we have on the line with us, on our newsmaker line, a gentleman by the name of Ryan Sorba. I had the pleasure, I've never met Ryan in person, but I've had the pleasure of really seeing his investigative work, undercover investigative work, via YouTube. Now, folks, if you go to hagmannandhagmann.com, on June 13th, 10 days ago, we put up a undercover video, or a link to an undercover video to Ryan Sorba's channel. And the title of it is Display of Tolerance. That's my title, followed by the brief summation of the video and a link directly to Ryan Sorba's video. And I do suggest everyone, and I mean anyone listening to this in the sound of my voice, please go to Ryan Sorba's YouTube channel and subscribe. Look at the videos. Now, Ryan is an undercover investigator, if you will. He heads up something called Right on the Edge, and he provides original investigative videos taken covertly of people saying things, high-profile people saying things that they wouldn't say in public. Go figure. For example, his last video on published on June 12th, and we reported this on June 13th, Homosexual activists want to beat up Anthony Kennedy. Well, it actually is worse than that. The display of intolerance, the demonstration of intolerance, the lack of any type of intellectual, well, I shouldn't say lack, the huge dose of intellectual bankruptcy, moral bankruptcy, is on display for you. From people like Kathy Jorgensen, Democratic Central Committee Chairwoman and pro-homosexual activist in Kings County, California. You know, what she said on video is enough to anger, or it should be enough to anger everyone who watches it. But I got news for you, folks. You haven't seen anything yet. Ryan Sorba has a knack of being able to get into places and to capture video and audio that others may not, cannot. And let me tell you, as a 30-year investigator focusing primarily on covert surveillance, it ain't easy. Ryan might make it look easy, but it's not easy. Just ask Joe. Joe, is it easy?
Not at all.
Okay. Well, all right. Here's kind of a situation, or here's the 411 on this. Ryan Sorba has infiltrated. We're going to let him explain it to you. Within the next 24, 36, 48 hours, Mr. Sorba is going to provide a video or perhaps a couple of videos. He has videotape footage that once posted, once published, once made public, just might change the course of history of those involved. And that's not hyperbole, that's not overstating their case. If it's my understanding what he has, once seen by the American people, will tell you exactly what the agenda, the homosexual agenda is. It's not pretty. It's ugly. It's incredibly sick, twisted, and everything that we said it was is now on videotape and audio tape. Joe, I'll bring you on first. It's been a busy day.
Yeah, it has. Very busy. We've got a lot done. Got a lot we're working on. And Mr. Sorba coming on and was kind of last minute. It's a nice surprise. I'm going to let you bring him on because you were the one that found.
The backstory here very quickly is this, and then we're going to bring Mr. Sorba on. I've been following his work for a while, and I saw something flash by my desk today that said, my goodness, the undercover covert audio or covert video and audio taken by Mr. Sorba, it could change people's lives. Basically, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, in terms of their ultimate, can we say jail time? I don't know.
I doubt it, but yeah,
who knows? But certainly, what it does is it exposes this dark, ugly agenda that people like Russ Dizdar, people like Greg Jackson, and others talk about. What's really going on behind the scenes, and we have to give him credit, because who else among us? Who among us are out there putting their lives on the line and infiltrating these groups and getting people to talk about what the real agenda is behind homosexual unions, what the real agenda is behind, I don't know, name something immoral, Well, he's got it. He's dead on, and he's a tenacious researcher, investigator. He's got some guts. With that, Mr. Sorba, anything I left out, please feel free to give us your background. But I just had to get you on. We had to get you on because you've got a heck of a story to tell, and you've got a video coming out that's going to really create some waves. And I just wanted to give you the chance to come on our program and talk about it a little bit, and because I think everybody needs to see what's going on. Mr. Sorba, welcome to the Hagmann Report.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. Just a little bit about myself. I started out as a college Republican and then moved on to the Leadership Institute. Formed one of the largest number of conservative clubs on college campuses in Massachusetts. After graduating from college, I served as the director of campus leadership at the Intercollegiate Studies Institute, ISI.org, one of the first conservative college think tanks and activist tanks in the nation. The first president was Bill Buckley. And then I moved home and worked for a couple of years for an organization called CFAC. And then for about 6 years, I've been doing undercover video work. I was part of the Acorn sting. It took down Acorn. And numerous other investigations. And when I heard that the United States Supreme Court was going to be taking up the marriage issue, I think I heard about it in January of this year or February, I began to, sit down and think about what I could do to try to impact the Supreme Court. And I basically came to the conclusion that the most effective mode of activism that I had ever seen that an individual could do that didn't have a lot of resources was this undercover video, and I was very good at it. So I came up with some scripts that I could run to try to come up with, to try to get the truth in front of the people who watch the videos. And the first thing that I came up with was, should Kagan and Ginsburg recuse themselves? And I got a whole bunch of people saying yes, but they weren't like politicians. And then in the process, these people started to open up, and I'd have more conversations with them. And the script that I began with began to morph into other scripts. For example, when I went to an event where there were going to be a lot of homosexuals present, and a guy told me that he became gay when he was raped. And I caught it on camera, and I was like, whoa. And I decided to ask another person, like, what do you believe that being gay is strictly genetic? And the other person said, I can tell you I was molested in second grade, and it affected me. And sure enough, I continued to ask the question and continued to get virtually the same answer, probably 90 to 95% of the time. There were literally just not even a handful, maybe 4 people that one guy mentioned that he had horrible experiences with women, and basically everybody they were all molested. And then there were a couple of people that had horrible experiences with women, but unbelievably, like, they kept saying, I was molested. And then I began to get into the details of that. And I come to find out that it isn't just adults molesting kids. It's also teenagers molesting kids and kids molesting kids. So, and then I began to wonder, well, how are these kids learning how to molest other kids? And I came to find out through continued questioning and just putting things together that a kid will get molested, and then he will take that and teach it to the other kids and do it to the other kids. And then those kids can sometimes do it to other kids. And so it's almost like a zombie apocalypse of The Walking Dead, where if you get, bit by the zombie, you turn into one. And I just am asking questions in this tape. I mean, this sounds larger than life. This is what the people have told me, and I was shocked because I looked at it. I thought, bad relationship with the father might contribute, coupled with a weird temperament, or maybe girls do it for attention in college. People do it for power in prison. People do it for money in the porn industry. People do it for because their father was they identified with the mother and they were a male and they related to girls, but those are very rare cases. And I think there might be more associated with like gender identity disorder. But unbelievably, man, like every person that I talked to had been molested. Some of the quotes from the video, there's an old Hispanic man that looks like Santa Claus. And I go up to him and I said, I started conversation with him. And I asked him, I said, what's the youngest guy you ever got with when you were older? And he looked at me and shook his head once, 12. I said, how old were you? He said, I can't tell you because then I'd go to jail. And then the next guy, he about midway through the conversation, his quote, I feel bad. I feel really bad. I go, why? He goes, because I molested all those kids. And I'm just like...
Why do you think these people open up to you? Is it the way that you approach them and talk to them?
Why would somebody admit that?
I mean, basically anybody can go and get them to say this. You just gotta. So I went to some gay bars, and people had a couple of beers, which allow in vino veritas, and wine there is truth. So they're more willing to open up, A, because of that, and B, because I heard that they were all molested. I told them that I was molested. I said, when I was, I said, what was your first, I'm doing a survey, what's the next step for the gay rights movement? And they give me their answer, and that's just a fake leading question to get them to open up. And then I'd say, we've got another question, do you believe being gay is strictly genetic? And a lot of times they'd get, like, goofy-eyed. And I'd say, well, because I don't think so. I had an experience when I was 9 where something happened, and, basically I was molested. So I tell them first that I was, even though I wasn't. I'd heard that from them so many times, and they said, I was too. And I said, oh, really? Like, how old were you? 4, 5, 7, 8, whatever. And was that your first sexual experience? I'll say yes. And I'll say, who is it with? And one guy, my babysitter peed in my mouth. By peed in my mouth, he was referring to ejaculation. Another individual, my babysitter strapped me to the toilet and put tape over my mouth, and her son later on, she physically abused him, and her son sexually abused him. And just it's endless. And once the people see this video, the cause and the reasons for the lies associated with the homosexual agenda are going to be crystal clear. They're lying about being born gay because it's easier than going around telling everybody that they were molested. That's A. B, they're wanting these Boy Scout initiations. They don't want to have therapy for minors. Why wouldn't they want therapy for minors? Because when minors go into therapy, they start to talk. What do they talk about? My babysitter peed in my mouth. My dad molested me. He told me he was a karate instructor. He asked me if I wanted a black belt, and I had to do this to get my black belt. And so these kids will tell on the child molester to the therapist. And so I truly believe this is the reason they want to pass these laws that you can't treat minors for same-sex attraction. And there's an old psychological American Psychiatric Association dictum that if your first sexual experience is a good one, it will be, you're likely to remain, sexually attracted to whatever that first experience was. And there's also another thing in molestation cases. It's in all the handbooks, professional handbooks, called imprinting. So we've all heard about imprinting with animals. The first thing it sees, it'll think it's its mother. Well, there's sexual imprinting in humans. And the gays told me about it. I've been researching this issue for a long time, but it wasn't until I went undercover and talked directly that I made leaps and bounds in my knowledge of this. Imprinting basically means that first sexual experience, if it is traumatic, will be imprinted in their subconscious or in their mind. And whenever something arises in their environment that triggers some aspect of that imprint, it will bring back all the associations. So it'll bring back the sexual aspect of the molestation, and it'll get triggered, and that can lead to same-sex attraction disorder, SSAD, SAD, which is the opposite of gay, which means happy, later on in life.
Right.
And so a lot of these people have been imprinted on. And then I read a letter by Martin Luther King when I found all the gay racist stuff. And he said a kid wrote a letter into Ebony magazine, and question and answer thing, and Martin Luther King responded, what you have going on is not genetic or predetermined, but culturally inherited. And he said the reasons for your problem, which is homosexuality, have now probably been consciously suppressed or unconsciously repressed. You would do well to find a good psychologist that can help you, bring those memories back and sort through them in order to get through this. And that's what I found in this video. I asked one guy, I said, what was your first sexual experience? He replied, it was with a kid when I was about 4 or 5 or 6. He said it was with the neighbor kids across the street, a boy and a girl, when he was 5. And I said, how did you know what to do? And he just looked at me dumbfounded. He said, I don't know. And I said, so you basically molested the kids next door? I said, did they initiate it or did you? And he said, I did. He goes, if anything, I molested them. And so and then another guy, he did it to all the kids in his neighborhood wherever he moved. Wherever he moved with his mother, and he said the main way he would do it is he would talk dirty to them. Or, and then he would get the kid, and then he would basically molest all the kids all the while he was growing up. And he ended up having to move out of his neighborhood once he turned 18, he said, because he was afraid that he would keep doing it and then it would be illegal. And then I got a bunch of them. I said, who's the youngest? I would say, who's the youngest dude you ever hooked up with to get him to talk? 15. A whole bunch of them said 17. I bet you that they were wanting that. I don't know, but a whole bunch of them said 17, and a couple said 15, and 12. One of them said 12. And so, by the time I've got literally 45 minutes of this, their cousins molested them, teenagers molested them, other kids molested them, old men molested them, 35-year-old men molested them. And so here we are in this position where they don't understand what's happening to them. I don't think that the conservative movement and Christians fully understand what's happened to them, because this is such a weird issue. Nobody wants to go there. And, we've got
it's a very
them
touchy
lashing
subject.
out.
Yeah.
It's the most touchy subject there is. So it really took a lot.
Ryan, hold that thought for a moment here. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to reintroduce our guest on the Newsmaker line, Ryan Sorba. Folks, if you go to hagmanandhagmann.com, check the entry out for June 13th. Click on that. That'll take you to Ryan Sorba's YouTube channel there. Subscribe. Keep an eye on that over the next 24, 36, 48 hours. More videotape coming. This videotape, Undercover, is in particularly going to, in the words, this is going to be nuclear, if you will. It's been described as nuclear, in terms of its impact on what's really behind the push for the homosexual agenda. Ryan, hang on just one second. Folks, I'm so happy to tell you this. We are so proud to be sponsored tonight by Casper Mattress. Casper is an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price. I don't know how many people are familiar with Casper. This is a fantastic startup company. It's really, they've got one of the best mattresses we use here at the Hagmann household, Casper mattresses. The mattress industry has inherently forced consumers into paying really high markups. Casper, well, they're revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with the resellers, the showrooms, and they pass the savings directly on to the consumer. Just want to say, go to Hagmann.com. Top middle there, you're going to see a picture of a dog on a mattress. That's not my dog, but my dog does sleep on the Casper mattress as well. Click on that. It'll take you to our own special world of Casper mattress. There. Oh, go shopping. More on this later, but that's broadcast. This episode, tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Casper Mattress, CasperMattress.com. Use the code word Hagmann, or just go to Hagmann.com. Click on the Casper mattress there in the middle, and boy, I'll tell you what, Casper, they've revolutionized the way I've slept. We're sleeping here at the Hagmann household, and they will too with you. Again, our special guest tonight on the Newsmaker line, Mr. Ryan Sorba. Please visit his YouTube channel. Go to Hagmann.com, click on the June 13th entry there, and it'll take you directly to the video, Hidden Democrats Endorse Polygamy-Based Same-Sex Marriage. I'm going to tell you something. It's really... it's eye-opening. Mr. Sorba, I didn't mean to interrupt there, but I had to take care of some business as well, and I wanted to make sure people who are joining us late know who you are. So go ahead and continue. It seems, Ryan, that you're talking about the cycle of abuse, aren't you? I mean, that's really behind this. Okay. Go ahead and continue, sir. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, that is essentially the gist of the video that will be coming out hopefully tomorrow. I'm in the process of editing it and captioning it now. The biggest and longest thing is captioning the videos. But, I really hope that this video and the other videos that I've released affect the United States Supreme Court before they rule on marriage, because they need to see this. I mean, I was thinking, I was shopping earlier today, and I was thinking, do we live in North Korea? Like, are we, hubristic to think that we're not living behind some kind of an iron curtain? I mean, for this to be the real truth, and for it to be as suppressed as it is, I mean, what good is our mainstream media? I mean, the purpose of the media is to provide checks and balances on the government and on other people, to be like either a referee or a person checking everybody's papers, calling them out when they make a mistake. And that's not what the media is anymore. So it's like, who's really more out there, the conspiracy theorists or the people that just buy into the mainstream media? I'm not a black helicopter guy, but I don't focus on that stuff. But at the same time, it's like, how could so many people in the United States of America be duped into this whole just mega lie that people are born gay, that they can't change? And it's just unreal. It really takes so much faith and, out of my trust in the United States and in the United States media. I mean, who are these, people that are running this system? I mean, you look at Corey Feldman and what he had to say about all the pedophiles in Hollywood that molested him, and you got to wonder, like, who's in charge and what are the real motives here? Now, some good news. I have a friend, Dave Jeffers, and he happens to have Clarence Thomas' wife's email, Jenny Thomas. And when I released one of my videos, he replied that he had forwarded it to her and that she had acknowledged that she had received it. And, the videos are doing decent on YouTube. One of them's got 22,000 views. Another one's got close to 10,000. Another one's going toward 5,000. But, they don't have 400,000 or 500,000. They're not moving toward 1 million anytime soon. But the fact that they were able to reach the Supreme Court is worth more than 5 million views, because if the video gets 5 million views but it never reaches the person that it can actually make an influential decision on the subject, then it did a good, it affected the culture, but I mean, we're standing on the edge of a 20 to 40 year cliff here and on a Roe versus Wade, to where I don't think that if the Supreme Court rules in favor of so-called same-sex marriage, which is a contradiction in terms, that it'll be the end of the pro-family movement. I think we're going to wind up exactly like pro-life activists, and I don't think the country will ever accept homosexuality across the board. It'll be an issue like abortion, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to affect this before that happens, and that's my goal here. So at the end of my polygamy video, I actually made the case for marriage, and it's boring. It's boring to listen to the case for marriage because it's not sound bites. It's not sloganeering. It's not fun. It's work. It's like math. It's actual reason and logic. And, I'll state it quickly. I don't want to go on too long about it because I don't want to bore anyone, because everybody that I talk to gets bored when I bring this up. But every person I've debated has literally ran away with their tail between their legs. Like, one guy moved the debate from Facebook onto messaging to make it private because he was getting demolished, and then he stopped replying on messaging because he couldn't get anywhere. He was stuck. Another guy actually was challenging me and ended up liking all my comments. And the case for marriage, it's grounded in human nature. Okay, God created the world, and He gave us reason. Why? So that we could know. So that we could know what? So that we could know truth. And so, C.S. Lewis wrote, does God, in the Bible it says, God can be known by His creation. And C.S. Lewis wrote, by the pattern left in the sand when that heavenly wave retreated. And, that's the pattern of reason. So faith and reason go together. They're not enemies. And so what is human nature? Human nature is we are a rational substance in relationship, a rational animal, a rational being. Birds fly, man reasons. The rational purpose of the reproductive organs and act is primarily reproduction. Secondarily, it's spousal bonding, cementing their relationship between the mom and the dad so that they stay together to educate their kids. That's it. That's the essence of marriage. There are three. So there's a primary, a secondary, and then there are tertiary ends, which are mutual help, fostering reciprocal love, and abating concupiscence. And those, however, are not a part of the substance of or the fundamental aspect of marriage, because obviously if you get handicapped, you can no longer provide your spouse with mutual help. If emotions wax and wane, and abating concupiscence, again, if you get handicapped and you can no longer, have sex together, that doesn't mean you're not married, obviously. Nobody would accept that. It's not even rational to do so. So those things aren't part of the fundamental essence of marriage, but they are present in a fully actualized marriage. If they're not present, the marriage is deficient in its tertiary ends. But if you have a kid and you stay together and raise it and educate it, that's marriage. And old birds have to teach, old birds, help young birds learn to fly. Men instill manhood into men. Women instill womanhood into women. Humans instill humanity into humans. The only thing that the other side brings up in response to this is, what about infertile couples? They can't have kids, so should they not be able to marry because gays can't marry? Uh-huh. The answer is that rebuttal has been overcome. Infertility is like blindness. It simply means something's blocking the organ from actualizing its full potential. It doesn't change the rational purpose of the organ. And therefore, it is still rational for them to get together and be together. Infertile marriages are different in particular, but not principle. So that's all I'm going to say about that, because it'll get boring and people will drop off. But that's all I wanted to say about that.
Well, I think you make a good intellectual argument. And people have to understand, I believe, when you're talking about the homosexual agenda, and Ryan, I know you know this, and our listeners know this, the 3%, 2.5, 3 to 3.5, I mean, it's a minuscule number in relation to the general overall population. Appear to be militant in their actions to change, to redefine marriage, to make homosexual behavior the norm. And it's not, here's the thing, Ryan, that we see, and I think this is very clear in your video, your last one, and I can almost see it in your next one. The tolerance level. They want us, the homosexual activists, want us to be tolerant of their behavior. But when it comes to their tolerance of heterosexuals or their tolerance to us, there is none. It's absent. And they want us to accept them and redefine. This small percentage, this very vocal small percentage, wants us to accept this redefinition against the law of God, the law of nature, and the law, and really the special rights for special constitutional rights, which is absurd. So, am I right there? Or and they're very. By the way, you mentioned, you used the word hubris. Man, I have never seen hubris of people just and they laugh. They're laughing at us, and they're enjoying it every step of the way by twisting in the wind. And I know Hunter Madsen and I'm trying to think of the other guy's name before the
Marshall
ball or Marshall after the ball. I'm sorry, after the ball. Laid out the homosexual agenda back in 1985, I guess it was. And to understand that. Go ahead.
They have a whole section in their book where they're complaining about how young men don't find old men attractive, and talking about different methods by which A, they could brainwash the population into accepting homosexuality as normal, and B, how they could brainwash young people into finding old people attractive again. I mean, this pervades their entire literature, their entire movement. The person who began this lie that people are, quote, born gay, was Karl Heinrich Ulrichs in Germany. He was molested by a 30-year-old when he was 14. The guy that brought the movement from Germany, where Karl Heinrich Ulrichs lived, to America, Henry Gerber, was molested. But Henry Gerber molested Champ Simmons, who molested Harry Hay. And Harry Hay became the founder of the Mattachine Society.
That's right.
The first homosexual activist organization in America. Harry Hay worked with Alfred Kinsey, and Alfred Kinsey came out with the Kinsey Report, which duped a bunch of people into believing that Americans were having, the Kinsey Report was like the researcher of the sexual revolution, and Hugh Hefner was quoted as saying, if Kinsey was the researcher of the sexual revolution, I was the pamphleteer. So you've got a concerted effort for over a century now that started out in debauched Germany, migrated here, and took a foothold because they knew that, so long as that they knew that this was like a zombie movie. If you get bit by the zombie, you turn into one, and if you're young and you don't have a strong position, and they'll perform sexual acts, and that will, like, one guy told me this. I can't even hardly say it. I go, so you don't believe you're born gay? He goes, I tell people I was sucked into it. And then he starts laughing because an old man did that to him, and he became gay, and it was imprinted. And it's disgusting. It's sick. It's selfish. It's using people. It's destroying their lives. I mean, these people are like, I've been to a lot of counseling now for what happened to me, but now I'm finally over it. And I'm sitting here thinking, no, you're not. You're sitting here in a gay bar. Your entire purpose in life, your entire possibility for having a wife, for ever having kids has been destroyed by this person who, what Peter LaBarbera says, an older man who chose their homosexuality for them, or a teenager who molested them chose their sexual orientation for them, or another kid their own age that didn't know what it was doing. They still have to be blamed, but depending on their age, but who was molested and started molesting other kids. It's a message to parents out there: watch your kids. It isn't only the old guy running, it isn't only the old man. Teenagers and other kids are doing this. A lot of these people, it was by their cousins. Their cousins did it to them. And but
okay,
I mean,
just to be clear,
about
though,
to get a rude awakening tomorrow.
Okay, just to be clear, conversationally here, and we're getting so many emails right now. I'll just, one example from Emily saying, I just wanted to thank you for confirming something I've long suspected. Okay, she had a brother who was abused by a male babysitter, and it goes on and on and on. But people don't understand imprinting. That's something that I think people need to understand, because ordinarily one would think perhaps that a bad sexual experience or being molested as a young person would have the opposite effect, for example, but you bring it up.
Well, what I've heard is, I don't have any quotes on this from them, but what I've heard is in some cases it depends on if it was a good or a bad experience for the person. It depends on the way the people around them reacted to the experience. It depends on whether or not the memory was repressed or suppressed. It depends on the child's temperament. So it's not to say that every kid that is molested will wind up gay. But
okay.
It is to say that almost every person that is gay was molested. So basically homosexuality among adults seems to be a cross-section of individuals who have been molested. So that's essentially, it's the way that molestation impacts one cross-section of individuals who were molested.
All right. Ryan, I don't want to cut you short here. I know we're kind of waning out of time here. We only have about 15 minutes left of this hour, but I really want to talk about your video that's upcoming. People really need to see what you have uncovered covertly. I cannot stress this enough. I think this is eye-opening. Just so I understand this, there are admissions by people on camera, covertly, surreptitiously taken by you, who admit being child molesters. Is that a fair statement?
Yes. And I got the city one of them lives in and the name, and I'm going through the footage now looking for the names of the others. And one guy, he says, here, I'll play you a clip of the audio right now. I'm not sure how well it'll come in, but it's a sneak peek. Let me make sure the volume's up. Volume's at 68. Here, I'll push play. Okay, there's going to be okay, here we go. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. Here's one clip. Here comes three more clips. They're just rapid. Do you have time or no?
Well, Ryan, it's not coming through very well. Why don't you go ahead and just summarize what was said there?
I said, what's the youngest dude you've ever hooked up with? And he looked at me and he kind of shook his head for a second and said, 12. And I said, how old were you when that took place? He said, I can't tell you that because I'd go to jail. Then the next guy says, I feel bad because I molested all those kids. And then he said, if anybody ever finds out, I'm going to be in big trouble. And then it goes on.
Are these well-known people, or are they in positions of power?
No, these are people. These are people that were at a gay bar that I went and just talked to everybody. I said I was doing a survey and I went up to everybody. And my goal here wasn't to take down a person of power, although that is sometimes the goal. We've done that with the Allison Grimes election in North Carolina and other things, but we got her lying about being in favor of the coal union. But this is about letting people know what causes homosexuality, what the real motives of the movement are, why they're lying to you about being born gay. They don't want to talk about the fact they're molested to everybody. The fact that these memories can be suppressed and repressed, imprinting, people can understand the psyche now of what's happening here. And I got a bunch of people saying that they wish the age of consent was lowered to 14, 13. One guy said 15 and a half with a learner's permit. And they started laughing, like stuff like that. I mean, it's horrific. This video is horrific. But the people have to know about it because they've been lied to for 2 decades or more. Just lie, 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 lie. Finally, the truth is going to come out. It's ugly. It's horrific to happen because I'm not living in North Korea where people automatically hate you and call you a bigot to shut you up because Lady Gaga told them at some trashy concert that, you know, you're born this way, and you know, Miley Cyrus is normal and we're weird because we just want the truth out there. I'm not going to live in a society like that. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go out, I'm going to get this footage, and I'll tell you, when I got the first undercover video, gays admitting they weren't born gay, not one person argued with me after I showed them that video. One girl asked me to turn it off because she couldn't even stand to see her, you know, fake world crumbling before her very eyes. Please turn this off. I can't watch it anymore. And they don't argue with me about it. They don't. And I feel freed. I feel like I don't have to argue and turn red anymore about this. I feel like and one time I got in an argument with a guy where I didn't have my phone to show him the video or anything, and I felt handicapped. Like before that video, before I could show somebody that video, I felt like it felt like I was back in the Stone Age before, you know, the truth was available live on hidden camera, and so it really felt freeing to get that first video out, and this video is even a bigger deal because it takes what was in that first video, it expands upon it, and it cuts much deeper into the issue, and in a way that is bound to get lots of people's attention so that they learn about this, and also in a way that will hopefully get people caught for crimes. One of the individuals is from Loma Linda, California, and we're going to be notifying the police. Another individual, I believe, is from Palm Springs area. We're going to notify the police, send them the footage, and, you know, we'll see what happens. But hopefully we can do some good. I mean, I've seen To Catch a Predator, and in that show, you know, it's like their emails, and then they kind of chastise the guy when he shows up. But this is actual child molesters talking about what they've done, admitting to what they've done, laughing about what they've done, unashamed, seemingly willing to do it again in some of these cases, many of these cases. And it's just an uncensored look into the psyche of the mind of how people have become, you know, developed same-sex attraction, the child molesters that have victimized them, how they were molested, and what they think about the age of consent. And so that's about it for this video in a nutshell.
There's still, it's my understanding, these people that you talk to, I mean, it's could this still be going on where, well, they're predators as well as, you know, homosexual agenda advocates? I mean, they're predators as well. They enjoy, I mean, we look at the homosexual agenda, and a part of that, according to many of the arguments, is to lower the age of consent, you know, to legitimize pedophilia. And I know how hard and difficult this is to talk about. But isn't this part and part? I mean, isn't that what this is all about? To normalize or legitimize or legalize pedophilia, lower the age of consent, legalize all sorts of things.
I think that if you go deep down to the bottom of what a lot of this is about, I think that that's it. And I think that's part of the reason for this whole you're not allowed to treat you know, the born gay thing does so many things for them. You know, gives them an excuse for being gay without having to talk to everybody about having been molested. It takes blame off the parents and the family and the people that have been around the kid from possible claims of molestation. Because the minute you see a gay person, you can look at them and say, somebody molested them, let's start looking into this. And if they're born gay, though, the child molester gets a free card because they can just say, I was born gay, everybody buys it, nobody questions anything, nobody's even suspicious. And then they want to go in and they want to say, you're not allowed to treat people for this. If they think they're gay, you need to leave them alone and let them figure it out for themselves. So therefore, it's like, okay, we can't even talk to them about why this happened, or it's illegal to send them to a counselor because they're going to tattle on their child molester. And if you look at like gay marriage, like, these people that have developed a gay identity have open infected wounds. And what they're really saying is it's better to tell them that their arm with an open infected wound on it is normal. Oh no, that's normal. Just leave it alone, it's normal. Rather than to, pour out, kill the bacteria, stitch it up. And so the conservatives and the Christians are saying, let's clean this wound up, let's stitch it up, let's get you going. And they're saying, no, that's cruel, that'll hurt. It's painful to them, you're being a bigot, just accept it. And what they're really saying is, leave that open and infected wound that hurts on their arm there for the rest of their life, because you need to accept it. And it's just like, Satan is a clever individual, I'll tell you that much. But they're able to develop this kind of a lie and spread it around the way that they have. It's surreal to me. And so,
well,
I think
we want to thank you for this.
Mm-hmm.
Pedophilia, every
it's one of.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean,
it's one of their goals. I think another one of their goals. I think one of the most dangerous things about this movement is it has been a steamroller rolling over the Christian church. They've attached them. My first video was about they're not born gay. Okay, then the second video is detaching the gay activism from the black civil rights movement. They're not black. This isn't a race issue. This is totally different. So the second video is, and then they want to call you racist, bigot, anti-gay. I said, okay, call me racist now that I'm the one sitting here defending, being normal against Democrat and gay racists. So you're going to call me a racist? Guess what? I'm going to throw this back in your face every time because I'm not a racist. And so that was the second video. And the third video was about what they think of Anthony Kennedy, because he's the swing vote, praying that he dies. They want to string him up, and they want to kick his ASS, string him up, and then kick his ASS while he's up in the air. They pray that he dies, etc. And I didn't even – they just said this to me. And then I'd go to the next person, and I'd say what the last person said to see if they agreed with it, and then they would. And then the next one was gay polygamy. And so all these Democrats are in favor of polygamy, polyamory. That video just was released yesterday. It's on YouTube. If you look up Ryan Sorba and click on videos, you'll see it's the last one that I uploaded. The one kid, Dennis Lathbury or something, it's in the video. He's the chair of the East Bay Young Dems. And this guy, I know a polyamorous couple. A polyamorous couple is a couple that has no defined lines. So you'll have a girl, a guy, and then that guy will be dating another girl, but she won't be dating her. And then another guy will come in, and then he'll be dating someone. So it's like a web of like relationship. And then a polyamorous triad is where you have two of one gender and one of the other, if you count the word gender as part of it at all. And he's sitting here saying, oh, yeah, I know polyamorous couples. I'm all for their rights. Gavin Newsom, the lieutenant governor of the state of California. I told him, I lied. I said, my sister's in one of these polyamorous triad things. And he started laughing and clapped his hands. And I said, do you support my sister? He said, yes.
I saw that.
Thank you for supporting my sister. And he goes, huh?
Yeah, I saw that. And you got a lieutenant governor.
Yeah, of California. And Barney Frank's husband, Jim Ritty. And then a Democrat superdelegate, Jess Durfee, he says, yeah, I support polygamy. I wouldn't say that publicly, but yeah, I don't get it, SHIT. And then another guy from the Stonewall Democrats of the Desert saying, don't say this to straight people. Don't say this to the media. You know, you just sort of give them a party line. Admitting to lying, admitting to being hypocrites, admitting to being underhanded. And they call us names because we get mad at them. You know, Marsh Kirk and Hunter Magnuson talked about framing us as, you know, the preacher pounding the pulpit in abominable rage, you know, beady, unctuous eyes. You know, the reality is we're mad because they're lying. So don't get mad at them because they're gay when you debate with them. Get mad at them because they're lying to you to your face, that they're disrespecting you, they're liars. And the lies that they're telling could very well impact your kids, not only because they're growing up in a culture in which this behavior is normalized, but because some other kid might adopt that and do it to your kid, because some teenager might and do it to your kid, because an adult might. And they're hurting homosexuals themselves. These people have open infected wounds that they're saying, leave them alone, leave them with their wound. Don't even, you know, the first step to change is admitting you have a problem. And you know, admit it, learn from it, and don't do it again. They're taking away the entire notion of admitting it's a problem. And so, and it's a psychological wound, so it isn't visible. So it's not like you can point to it. You know, you have to dig in deep, and it's personal, and it's secret, and so it's, anyway.
Oh, man. You know, another email here. I just wanted to know if your guest is aware that singer Melissa Etheridge admits she was molested, incest by her sister. And,
wow, I did not know that.
I didn't either.
I do have Melissa Etheridge in my book. You can also Google my book. Google The Born Gay Hoax, and there's an old rough draft copy of my book. My book isn't done yet, but you can have a free rough draft copy. Google The Born Gay Hoax. The
Born Gay Hoax. Okay, search that. All right. Wow. All right. Well, we understand I mean, we know, and I think science has borne this out, where you know, it's a behavioral trait as opposed to a genetic or a genetic predisposition. And I know people argue that, but you know, talking on an intellectual, scientific basis, I think there's enough scientific evidence to support the fact that it's a behavioral trait. And up to 1973, it was considered a mental disorder in the DSM.
Now, that's another thing I want to nip. It is still a mental disorder. They didn't remove it in 1973. They never did. They voted to change the name of it, and they changed the definition of what it meant to have a mental disorder, but they never took homosexuality out. They changed it. They've changed it, and it's been essentially this. This is it in a nutshell. We feel it was during the Black Civil Rights Movement. Right after that, it was during the Vietnam War protests that they were lobbying the APA, and they had a lot of energy because of those other things that were going on in society. And the leaders of the APA couldn't deal with the constant protests. They were jumping on their cars. They were threatening to beat them up. They were sending them death threats. They're like, look, we're nerdy psychiatrists. What are we supposed to do? We got these crazy gay people running around, you know, acting screwy. We don't know what to do. They said, look, do this. You feel bad for them because they can't get a job because they're mentally diseased. Now, they've acquired this mental disease. Like, help them get a job. Take it out as a mental disorder. Okay? But, wink, wink, leave it in so that they can get treatment. So what they did was, right now it's in the DSM, it's called sexual orientation not otherwise specified. That's the clunky phrase for homosexuality. And it's for anyone who struggles with homosexuality that wants help. Because the other side, although they argued for civil rights and we want a job, take it out as a mental disorder, although they argued for that, the other side said, look, we have to leave the door open for self-determination because that's also a civil rights movement issue. And if somebody doesn't want to be this way and they want to get help, they can. So all these anti-reparative therapy bans have all been for minors. You're not allowed to treat minors. And or they've been focusing on the licensing because they're trying to limit who can provide treatment. But the DSM says you have the right to self-determination. If you don't want, if these are unwanted same-sex attractions, you can come into any psychiatrist and get help. I got gays admitting that in my first undercover video that you can watch, and it's in the DSM, and also that treatment is not available for unwanted heterosexual attraction, opposite sex attraction. So here we have sexual orientation not otherwise specified that's sitting there today, and our whole movement is bought into this lie that they took it out as a mental disorder. It's still there, but, I mean, they did do damage to the truth, major damage, and it did pave the way for them to decriminalize the behavior, for them to lobby for gay marriage, for them to put themselves into the schools, but it's still there.
Okay.
It was a sleight
Thank you
of hand.
for that.
Yeah.
Thanks for that clarification. And do you, one last question here as we're up against the top of the hour. Did you include that in your book, The Born Gay Hoax?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it was in the earlier draft, but it is the whole APA chapter now in the version is about that, about how look it's still here, but here's how they keep changing the name to make it not appear as though it's there, because the debates they had all through the 70s, 80s, and 90s were, what do we call it? They kept, there you go, there's Estonic homosexuality. They kept changing the name, and the gays just wanted the word homosexuality out of there. That was their compromise. Just get the word homosexuality out, call it anything else, and we'll both move along peacefully on our way.
Wow.
That was the big debate. Mm-hmm.
Ryan, we got to cut you loose, but I got to tell you, we're looking forward to that video. It's gonna be a groundbreaking, earth-shaking video, to be sure. I know I've seen your work, folks. Ryan Sorba, Right on the Edge Radio, or Right on the Edge channel. Just go to Hagmann.com. I'll put a link up there directly to your channel, or go to the June 13th entry for the June 12th video, and then subscribe to his channel from there. You folks want to be the first to grab this video. Make it go viral, because people need to pay for the crimes, and this is a crime. I mean, no doubt about it. It's on the books as a crime. These people are admitting to crimes, and of course that opens up the actual agenda.
Email the videos to the Supreme Court. Go to the Supreme Court's website. Go to the email thing. They have it on there. You can find it. It's very easy. Send a public email. Email it in. Email it like 15 times. Huckabee has got a thing out that's sending emails in support of marriage. So does Phyllis Schlafly. And then we have emailed them, but we got to make sure that this video gets in front of all of them. Jenny Thomas, Clarence Thomas' wife, is doing the best she can to get these videos in front of them. But, you know, these are big, snooty, stuck-up intellectuals, and you don't want to bother them and annoy them with your little peon videos. So get it in front. You have to do it. If they're going to act like activist judges, we're going to treat them like activist judges.
There you go. And with that, what a great ending. Ryan Sorba, our very special guest. Ryan, God bless you. Thank you so much for all of your hard work, your efforts in bringing the truth out in the open.
Stay safe. Yeah. Keep up the good work.
Yeah. And please.
Thank you. God bless you guys, and thank you for helping get the truth out in the open as well.
Indeed. Thank you, Ryan. We'll be in touch. God bless.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. That was Ryan Sorba. Check our website, Hagmann@Hagmann.com. Tomorrow for that latest video. We're going to go to our top of the hour break. We're going to come back with Stan Deyo as he's patiently waiting on hold. So we're going to hour number 2 of this Tuesday, June 23rd edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. I forgot to mention, today is my 3rd year wedding anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
So I wanted to say happy anniversary to my wife. And you did tell me happy anniversary today, so thank you. But with that, Stan, welcome back to the show. Sorry for the delay.
That's all right. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Wow,
Stan, three years of wedded bliss. Huh.
Yes. Yes. I hear you. Well, let's hope it continues, me boy. Well, what's happening today?
Well, boy, where do you want to start? I mean, so much news, and none of it really good. But even before you come on, in fact, I think on Sunday, we started getting emails, questions for Stan Deyo. So, I mean, you tell me. What's on your mind, and then I guess we can toss the questions at you that we've gotten already for your appearance.
Well, the questions that started coming in on Sunday, were they with like for current events type things, or were they more general?
Well, pretty much. Let's see here.
Fukushima questions.
There you go.
Some South Carolina questions. Planet X.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's leave those a bit later then. As you say, there are a number of things of interest. One of the things that's really got my attention at the moment is the sun.
Oh.
Have you been following the action on the sun lately?
No, you know what? I haven't. I will pull up one of my solar sites right now.
Well, go to the show images page. It's there on the second row, first image. I've got a animation of the last 4 days worth of activity on the sun, plus 8 photos I've taken out of that to show you some exceptional things happening on the sun.
All right. We have a geomagnetic storm coming our way too, correct?
We've got one, maybe two, actually. It may be a bit of a surprise there.
All right.
I'm just looking here. I lost an image I wanted to put up. Where in the heck is that? I'll do that later. But there were several images of the sun that were quite extraordinary. And one of them, let me just see where I put that. Dadgummit, that's important.
But in the meantime, folks, you can go to hagmann.com, click on the right-hand side there, direct link to standeyo.com, his website, and then click on the show images page, and there you have it. But go ahead, sir.
Yep. Okay. Yes, I found the images. I must have tossed them in the rubbish somewhere. Interesting. Okay, look, what I wanted to show you, you may have to go and see yourself on the SOHO website, the NASA SOHO satellite stuff, because it shows a very unusual pattern that formed on the surface of the sun over the last 4 days, and it resulted, this pattern was like a spiral around a central flare that was pointed right at Earth. It's called the halo coronal mass ejection or flare. That's what's creating the magnetic storm for today and tomorrow and probably the next day at the rate things are going. Even Matt Drudge on his thing has been talking about the sun, about how it's apparently cooling, but not enough to save the Earth from global warming. But, that article, I maintain that the sun is not cooling. It is just having less sunspots, and we're going to see some exceptional heat from it and coronal mass ejections over the next few years. But anyway, I know Matt's quoting what's out there in the mainstream media, and they're still trying to push this global warming effort by, mankind. But I think our real issue is the sun itself. Anyway, on that show images page, if you click on the 8 images, you will see that starting at London time at about 8:25 in the morning on the 19th of this month, a halo coronal mass ejection flare was aimed right at Earth. And then about 3 hours later, 2.5, 3 hours later, another one started to blow out on the upper right-hand corner of the sun, and you see it progressing on the 19th. Several of them occur. And then you get down to the 21st at about 3 o'clock in the morning, London time. That halo that's aimed right at it, you can see it outlined in that particular shot. And it progresses from there over to about 6:48 in the evening on the 22nd in London, and you see a bunch of little white dots in the image. And this is from proton storm coming straight at the camera and impacting the digital receiver, and that produces those white snow effect on the imaging plate. And there's another small halo coronal mass ejection flare combination forming right there. And then you go to today at 3 o'clock. Let's see, what would that be for us? That would have been last night for us, but 3 o'clock in the morning today over in London, you see the beginning of another super flare, 2 or 3 of them on the right side and upper right side of the sun as you look at it. The image which I will look for in a bit, which pictures the sun, is an exceptional thing in that it's the picture of the sun, the whole sun, that shows the magnetic filaments that produce these coronal mass ejections or these solar flares. And over the last 4 days, that has really done something strange. The image looks like, at first it was like boomerangs, if you wish, dark boomerangs, which are filaments on the surface of the sun with the point of the boomerang pointing to your right. And there were 3 of these right centered on the equator, spaced apart. And as the sun turned into today and yesterday, those spirals went on around, but connected to them was what was pointed at us, was like a Catherine wheel, like a spinning sparkler wheel of about 3 or 4 of those filaments centered around the coronal mass ejection and flare that aimed right at us. Now, something is weird on the sun. You just don't see that very often. I'm looking right at the image now, and it's indicating to me that the sun is undergoing a major change in its nuclear chemistry. I don't think that we're going to see a lot of sunspots, but we're certainly going to see a lot of flares, and we're seeing it right now. I don't need to say going to. We're seeing it right now. Oh, boy. And this affects weather and all kinds of things for us.
That was my question.
Sorry.
I mean, what's the ultimately what's going to be the result of this? And you said it affects weather. Okay. How so, by the way? I mean, when you say it affects weather, how would that?
The radiation that comes out of the sun in various spectral bands, like ultraviolet A, B, and C, can have harmful effects on plant life and on skin tissue. The UVA we get along with, and B, if you wear clothing properly and sunblocker, that's pretty safe, unless the ozone layer is thinning, which of course it is because the magnetic field of the Earth is weakening. So, but ultraviolet C bandwidth kills plants in addition to humans, and we don't want to see increases in that getting through our ozone layer. But the energy coming from the sun, normally we were shielded from a lot of it. Now then it's getting through our ionosphere, our ozone layer shield. It's causing animal life, marine life, to absorb these new frequencies in ultraviolet, and as part of their metabolism, they absorb this and convert it to infrared, which is heat. And so our oceans are heating up due to the absorption of these ultraviolet bands. They're new ones that have been coming from the sun since 1992 and increasing in intensity and the range of the bandwidth. Now, so how does the sun affect this? Well, it drives everything here in our weather. It drives electric fields. It drives, the north-south magnetic pole. Since our north and south poles are weakening and starting to enter the reverse or, the flip-flop stage, they are very susceptible to changes in the magnetic field from the sun. And these filaments and these flares that we're seeing are causing magnetic field interruptions to Earth's magnetic field. In fact, there's one little hole in our magnetic field that actually is a filament attached to the sun, and variations in the sun's magnetic field can just punch right down into our core of the planet and accelerate the pole reversal and other storm effects because the flow of electricity into the surface of the Earth, the telluric currents, do affect thunderstorms and the direction and intensity of them. So this is the one of the major ways, or a couple of major ways, that the activity of the sun directly affects us. Now, if the sun goes cold and doesn't give us the radiation that it's been giving, that can cause a mini ice age, like happened in the Maunder Minimum in the early to mid 1600s, where the Thames River in London froze solid for several years, so much so that they were holding merchant bazaars and sales and stuff on the ice year round, and that's cold. Now, Drudge Report does say that we're entering a cold period, but I think that they're going to have to say it's a cold period punctuated by brilliant bursts of energy from the sun, so intense that it will catch fire to green trees and grass when it hits the Earth. It won't be all over the Earth. I think it'll be on one side of the Earth when these eruptions or these punctuated events occur. But, it's something that we need to be very aware of. And, that's it. I mean,
this was not, Stan, I mean, it sounds like you did not see this coming necessarily. I mean, that's not to say, I mean, you can't, it's impossible to predict solar activity, right? Like this, of this caliber?
No, I've been telling you it's going to get worse, relating it to biblical prophecy, because I know that that's going to happen. The Hopi tell about it. The Book of Revelation tells about it. I'll tell you now, it's going to get worse, and our climate this year, which is being majorly affected by the El Nino, which is an exceptional thing this year. It's just gone further up the coast into Alaska and into British Columbia and off the California coast. And then we've got increased rainfall and flooding going east of the Rockies, all the way to New York. So I think this will get worse, and I think we'll see what I've dubbed as landicanes, in addition to the numerous tornadoes that we're seeing occur right now, that we will see straight line fronts of horrific hurricane force winds sweeping across, probably in the Middle Plains region, going over toward the Great Lakes and New York, upstate New York, and up into Maine, perhaps. But yeah, look, I've been expecting this. I've been telling people that we're going to see exceptional, hot, exceptional cold, exceptional wet, exceptional dry, exceptional lightning, exceptional hurricanes, exceptional tornadoes, as the sun begins this super change of its phase state. Look, I know that if you use conventional teachings, at the university about the age of the universe, the age of the sun, the age of the earth, you're thinking, we've got 1 billion years till the sun goes red giant, blah, blah, blah. But this is not the case. There are at least 3 major papers, as I mentioned on your show last week and the week before, where physicists are saying, we got it all wrong about the age of the universe, because we've been using radioactive decay, which is a function of the speed of light and what they call the fine constant of the universe. And these were, like 10 with 30 zeros after it, times faster than the speed of light now. And that means that our whole universe could be less than 50,000 years old, maybe less than that. If you reevaluate the dating, then it means that our sun, like other stars, is not going to wait 1 billion or 1 million or even 500,000 years before it starts to expand and become a red giant. I think we're going to see it throw off a cloud of of particles as it ages and its diameter increases. That's the next thing I'm looking for, is for the sun to increase its diameter, maybe 1% or less, but still, that it will increase and start throwing off particles in a cloud around it. Even the Old Testament says there will be a cloud form around the sun that will diminish the light output so that the light of the moon is like red because it's having to get through all this dust. And that will cause some of the cooling, but then the light of the sun in probably the ultraviolet range is going to be 7 times brighter than it is on a normal day for a short period of time, and that's what's going to cook one side of the planet when it's facing it. When that occurs, it's like a flare coming off of it. So we're not safe. People should not sit back and think, oh well, the sun will be there forever and ever. It was there yesterday and 100 years before that and 1,000 before that, so it'll be there tomorrow the same way. It won't change. But that's not the case. Entropy, energy, things running down, universe expanding, stars expanding, planets expanding as they slow down their spin around their axes. And this is the thing that's going to cause the sun to malfunction greatly ahead of what traditional physics says it does or it will. Anyway, yeah.
Wow. Pretty heavy duty. I mean, just thinking about it.
Well, it's just saying that prophecy is, believe it, it's going to get very, very busy with the sun, and it will be a big driver in what happens on the earth. That's all.
Well, we're already seeing some pretty unusual weather activity. I mean, it's the extremes, I suppose. One thing I've noticed, and our summers certainly, I don't know. It just, everything seems to be in upheaval, I suppose. But my goodness. All right.
On that happy note, he said.
Yeah, really.
The earthquake activity on the planet, we've seen a couple of interesting earthquakes in the last week. We've seen a 6.9 over in Japan just in the last couple of days, and a Richter 7 over in the mid-Atlantic ridge between Argentina and South Africa. You can see that if you click that image on our show page there, show images page, which shows the earthquakes globally from the 17th to the 23rd of June. And if you look at the United States, basically everything there is kind of normal for the last 7 days. I don't see any exceptional activity there in the Juan de Fuca Plate. Normal activity in Oklahoma City, well, normal for the new normal for Oklahoma City. And so earthquake-wise, I think at the moment we're in a quiet zone, which means it's probably building up for a surprise in the next week or two.
Wow.
Interesting stuff, though. Now, on there are a couple of things that I want to talk about on the Ceres, this miniature planet they found in the asteroid belt. People have been talking about the white spot on it and everything, but the newest thing that's come into discussion is what's called the pyramid of Ceres, or the cone structure, the mystery cone on Ceres, and you can see that if you click on that image. I've enlarged it to show this mysterious circular cone popping up out of the surface of Ceres. Now I think, and certainly I could be proven wrong on this later, but I think that's not like intelligently made. I think what happened, if you'll look just to the edge of that cone, kind of northwest of it, you'll see a crater about the same size as that cone. And it's a crater that was made at an angle. You can see that the wall furthest from the cone is deeper than the wall at the edge of the cone. And what I think happened was there was a meteor impact, came down at an angle and bounced off the subsurface, came back up, formed the cone, but didn't break free. So you see what I'm saying? Like a hook, as it came back and it pushed up the surface to form that cone. And the reason I think that is obviously from the structure of the crater that's to the northwest of it being eccentric, low on one side, high on the other, as though it were aimed right at that cone. But the cone itself has a lot of that white material that we're seeing that is ejected on other craters. So it's been pushed up from the subsurface there, which is why I think that's what's happened. And it's not, any great mystery as far as some civilization building a cone that's that big. But anyway, that was...
how big would... I'm just curious. How big are we talking about it? Would that be like the size of the state of New Jersey, or I'm just maybe it's irrelevant, but I was just curious if you knew that.
I knew you were going to ask that. I did know. I think it was a few kilometers and maybe a couple miles high, something like that. But I'll check on that and find it for you in a minute. Let me just see.
It's significant. Obviously significant. Wow.
The pyramid-shaped mountain of Ceres is now in Wikipedia, and it is 3.1 miles high, or 16,000 feet, and it's approximately 48,000 feet across the base of it. And 48,000 feet. Just use my handy Hewlett-Packard computer here. Would be approximately 9 miles in diameter. So that's a reasonable size bump.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, some interesting stuff. As you may remember, I've been working on a second paper on the nature of gravity, how it's the spin of the fluid of space that causes planets and stars and galaxies to form and to spin. And I'm seeing evidence of this in these latest pictures from Ceres and from Vesta that the Dawn spacecraft's been taking, and from some of the older pictures from Mars and from Saturn. You can see those images on the Show Images page on the top row, all of them, and on the second row on the right, the one of Ceres. And what you're to look for is this. The poles of these asteroids and these planets, the poles have spirals around their poles. In other words, they were formed, and there was a twist to the surface there, and in essence, it was where the gravitational field dived inside and formed other layers inside, or shells inside Ceres and Saturn and Mars and Vesta. If you look at those pictures of the poles, there can be no doubt in your mind that things, as they cool, develop spirals and holes or dents at their polar regions, whether it be a moon or whether it be a planet like Mars. You can see there the spirals that form there as part of the nature of gravity as the thing was cooling. Saturn is, of course, a gas giant and not solid yet. And what is happening there is the gas is dipping down toward the north pole of Saturn as it spins, again causing a dip. And if you look at Earth, we are kind of slightly flattened at both poles, and the equator is bulging more than the poles of our planet. So I'm just showing you this to keep you up to date with the work I'm doing on the nature of gravity and how things age and planets expand. And that was part of the stuff I was researching when I kind of stumbled onto the location of the Garden of Eden when I was putting the continents back together. Anyway, good fun for that.
I can say this: as we age, gravity is not our friend, right? But and that goes for planets too.
I understand that.
Looking at Vesta and looking at Mars in particular, it almost looks like there's a counterclockwise. Maybe it's just me, like not a movement, but a counterclockwise bias to these poles. Does that mean anything, or am I just seeing monkeys?
Well, no, that's an interesting. That's an interesting point. It depends, on where the object is orbiting, and usually they spin with their host planet or star, and those spirals are the same but opposite if you look at them through, invisibly, like looking through the planet or the moon from the top to the bottom. But they should be a counterclockwise spin and then you turn it over and it's still counterclockwise. But if you could see through the moon, or the asteroid, you would see as though they were in opposite directions. But anyway, that's just relative position of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But don't you think it's interesting, all those things having, that spin and the dip at the poles?
Yeah. Yeah. It is, and well, okay, and so this does reinforce. Just to be clear, you're working on a paper about gravity, so this does reinforce. These images reinforce what you're postulating about the push and pull of gravity. Is that right?
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I know that's a long way to say it, but that's it.
Well, no, I mean, I think the attention to detail is fabulous here. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, sorry. Do you have a question, Joe?
Go ahead, Stan. You can keep going. I'll ask when you're done.
Let's see here. I've got some things that we can use a bit later, some lighter topics and more interesting and fun things. However, there is an increase in sinkholes across the United States and in some other countries. With all the extra flooding, more sinkholes are appearing. Now, we've had flooding before, we've had sinkholes before, but we've not had as much flooding or as many sinkholes in modern history. I still think these things are forming because the ground is not compressed sideways as much as it used to be, because the Earth is beginning to expand and stretch the surface, at least of the continental borders and on the land masses that form our continents. So I expect we'll see more sinkholes in places. Certainly we're seeing them in Russia and China, and of course here. With this increased rain, I think people may experience quite a few of them over in the eastern states. Hey, I was reading something here about Samsung company, TVs and all that kind of stuff. They make road train trucks, long-haul trucks to carry goods back and forth. And they have just started testing a safety truck they're making in Argentina. And you know how you drive up behind a truck and it's a big tall thing and long, and you're wondering, can I pass or not? Is there anything ahead of it that I'm going to run into? Well, they have put a big LCD TV screen across the back of their trucks so that the person driving behind it can look at the TV screen, and it's fed from a camera in front of the truck so you can see what's on the road ahead for, a long distance ahead of the truck, which is really quite a nifty idea safety-wise for, preventing accidents where people try to impatiently pass one of these big trucks. I think it's a really clever idea, using that to produce that. The Ford Motor Company is now starting to, Ford is going to catch up with some of these other higher priced, like BMW and stuff, cars. It's going to put cameras all over the cars. They'll probably print them with a 3D printer, they're saying, and they'll put these cameras on the cars so that you can look on your dash and see left, right, center, top, everything on your dash. And again, I think it's a great safety idea to be able to see what's around you in your environment. You do it yourself if you're walking in a crowd. You're looking around you to be sure you don't run into anybody and nobody runs into you and that kind of stuff. But anyway, I think those two inventions are really quite nifty.
Yeah, I like the idea of obviously anyone who's ever been caught behind a truck. Yeah, it certainly is a great idea. And hey, the Madison Avenue approach too. You can always have the drivers perhaps take a DVD of your lecture series and put them in, so in case the guy behind doesn't want to pass, he can watch you in the lecture series.
Why I know.
Sure.
Sound like a plan to me. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, and you know what? Speaking, I got to tell you this, Dan. Speaking of cameras, and I know this is just funning around, but I just had to take our vehicle, my wife's vehicle, in. I'm not used to these new inventions, cameras and stuff. I mean, I'm an old guy apparently, because I left the tailgate on my wife's vehicle open, and when we were moving some things to the studio, and boy, it's not a cheap date when you rip off those those backup cameras and stuff. Oh man,
you broke one of them.
Oh yeah, did I ever? And you know the sickening sound of the crunching metal when you. Oh yeah, I left the tailgate open, and you see. I just never thought of it, I guess. I don't know. I was careless, but it takes a while to get used to knowing. I'm used to a no-frills kind of vehicle, so I never looked at that little image where the camera's supposed to be, or where the camera shows up in the cab. I look at the mirrors, and I didn't see anything behind me. So anyway, so again, for anyone who's done that, not a cheap date. So anyway.
Well. Stan, have you got any updated information on Fukushima?
Yeah, a lot of people asking about that.
Yeah, listener questions, and I saw a few stories.
I don't. Have you seen some yourself?
Not this week. Let me look real quick into the
somebody just sent,
archive.
And I'm not sure if this has any bearing. Somebody just sent something about a fish kill here.
Yeah, there's been some whale die-offs in California and in Japan. There have been there was a report released not too long ago that talked about the rate of cesium-137 would be detrimental to the whole west coast of the United States. And I can't remember how far back over. Let me just do a quick search for it.
Okay.
Well, let me back up. Let me back up pre-Fukushima first.
I mean, it's the news is so crazy that Fukushima is becoming a secondary. It seems like it's not that important, but it really is very important.
Well, hold that thought, because Terry H. We kind of glazed over earthquakes here. Terry H. Writes, "I'm RBC, right brain cooker, when I'm in shed." Oh, okay. All right. Please ask Stan about the earthquakes in Alabama. We just had our 15th quake since November. All have been small, 3 and under. Just wondered if you had any comment. Now, I know we kind of just glossed over the earthquake, saying, normal activity. The 15th quake since November in Alabama. Comments on that before we get into Fukushima?
Well, let me just pull that page up for earthquakes. I'll go to the live feed and look at the United States for, say, like the last 30 days with significant quakes, and let's just see what that gives us here. Okay. We don't even show the quakes in Alabama in the last 30 days.
Okay, what's the cutoff?
I'm just looking here.
Is it like 3 and under don't show up, or I mean?
No, you can do your own cutoff.
Oh, 2.5 and under.
Okay, 2.5. All right.
Yeah, but I mean the quick the quick look at USGS, they cut it off at 2.5. Anything below that they don't show.
All right, Stan, I found the Fukushima article. I'll drop it in the Skype.
It's like we've got ADD here.
Conversation box, and the headline is West Coast of North America to be slammed by 2016 with 80% as much as Fukushima radiation as Japan.
What?
And that made its way around.
Who did that article?
This was from Zero Hedge, but this was on Reuters. It was on AP. It was everywhere.
Wow.
And by what date?
They say West Coast of North America
will they be doing that?
To be slammed by 2016 with 80%. Let's see.
Well, by next year, it's indicating so.
They say that Professor
That's
Japan.
like time to leave.
Yeah.
In April, that west coast of North America will be hit with around 800 tiberiquels of cesium-137 by 2016. So by April in 2016.
Are they saying that's coming by air or by water or what?
UPS. Sorry.
Let's see.
I'm looking at it too here. I don't see any type of.
They say there could be pockets or streams of highly contaminated radiation. Also, the water, 15 out of 15 bluefin tuna tested positive for water or for radiation in the water. There's not a lot of new facts in here.
Yeah.
It backs it up with old facts, but I'll find that article, and even if I send it to you later.
That's a whole lot of radiation on the West Coast.
Yeah, it was a big headline, I remember.
Yeah. But, with the drought there, the water aquifers, I don't think they'll be, damaged by the radiation. Of course, with the shortage of water, we will have reduced crops of some of the major crops that come out of the San Joaquin Valley, which might shield the rest of the country and other places in the world that normally eat those vegetables and fruits. But the people that live there, there's going to be rainfall. There's going to be fish caught on the shore, or offshore a little bit and brought in to consume. And if that report's correct, yeah. Well, I keep coming back to the fact that Fukushima certainly is a lesson, but we have 100 and some odd reactors here in this country, and an earthquake in the right place at the right time will give us one or more Fukushimas on the United States soil. So one way or another, I think the United States and the products that we may export to other countries in those areas will eventually be polluted by radiation.
Okay.
I sometimes wonder if that's what the Hopi legends speak of when they say that America will be invaded by the Russians and the Chinese and a Middle East country, but they won't stay long because the country will not be hospitable to them, and it might be because the cities are polluted from, nuclear blasts or from reactor meltdowns because the infrastructure failed when an EMP pulse knocked out all the digital stuff controlling the nuclear reactors in the country and their backup systems. There's just a number of scenarios that could fit that and make it many times worse than Fukushima. That's happy news again. Wow.
Well, it's all happy.
Aside from staying on climate change, aside from Fukushima, Stan, I wanted to get your take on this. The scientific Pathinus, who advises Pope Francis, it goes on to say that this St. Francis of Assisi, him and his new green climate change initiative, he just released a...
you mean Pope Francis?
Yeah. Well, anyway, he has a member of his... He first released a climate skeptic from the study. Now he has embraced what's his name? Hans Schellenberger. He's an atheist who believes in Gaia, or Mother Earth.
Right, it's Gaia worship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is this normal for? Have you ever seen a pope?
No, this pope is definitely abnormal. He's a Jesuit, and we've known for a long time that the Jesuits have had a major role to play in the Illuminist movement. The Illuminati for the planet. Adam Weishaupt was a Jesuit, and that was the alleged father, or the originator of the Illuminati back in the 1700s. So this Pope, coming from the Jesuit order, and the two were at odds, the Jesuit order and the Vatican, when they had just normal popes. But when they had a pope come from the Jesuit order, it's like the President of the United States would become Vladimir Putin or something. It doesn't add up well. It's like the enemy in charge of your camp. So I think we expect some rather drastic and exceptional moves by this current Pope, which will, of course, fit into prophecy. But that's why he's doing some of these weird things. That they're moving towards this one world religion and the one world order, the New World Order. They've been doing it for several hundred years.
Right. Yeah, and I can see this forming. I mean, today with the transfer of power to Obama by the Congress, but for the TPA, ultimately for the TPA and the other smaller components of that. It just seems like everything's happening at such a rapid pace. We're being sold out here in the United States by the Uniparty, by the fascists in power. And I say fascists because, I think by definition that's exactly what it is. Fascism, which ultimately will bring in this communist one world government. But, and then you've got the Pope perhaps leading up the charge for this new one world religion, which, man.
The age-old conflict between capitalism and communism was designed to eventually produce a hybrid of the two, where you have thesis and antithesis, and you put them together and you get a new thesis, in essence, a new order. And I think it can be a form of dictatorial socialism, national socialism like Hitler was after. I think you're right, it will be that way. But it's come out of the communist-capitalist competition, showing the pitfalls of both systems, and then forming the hybrid, which will come when the New World Order forms. And people will want to try it because everything else is not working. The communist countries will be unhappy. The capitalist countries will be unhappy because the economy is failing, the U.S. dollar's fallen, and so they'll all look for that new thing. All right, what other questions have you got?
All right, West Coast. Okay, wait a minute. Pole shift questions. Pole shifts. I can talk. This from Christine. Let me just see if I can. Here we go. Could you ask Snan about sudden pole shifts, and if he thinks they're possible? Of course, we spoke about that in previous programs. What would cause them and the impact they would have on planet Earth? And this is from Christine. And I know we've talked about this before. If you want to just give a Cliff Notes version, or however you want to do that, handle that
Sure.
question.
Well, seeing as how we've not had data that's accurate enough, detailed enough to tell us from the last polar reversal what happened to the life forms on the planet, one of the things that we can kind of estimate will happen is this. The poles shift will weaken our magnetic field around the entire Earth, because during a pole shift, the north and south poles break into 2 or 3 pairs of north-south poles that spin around in turbulent motion inside the core of the planet. Now, this is according to NASA. They even have animations to show you how that happens. And we are seeing signs to that now, with the North Pole splitting apart into 2 poles at least twice the speed of the split at the South Pole. The field is not only splitting, but it's weakening, and the magnetic field generates or is a major factor in maintaining the ionosphere, which shields us from a lot of deep space radiation that's harmful, and from the sun itself. So that's one thing that a pole reversal in a shorter period of time, over months or days, however long it takes, I think it'll be like days and months. But this reversal will leave us unshielded, and it'll be dangerous to be out in the sun at that time for plant life and for animal life. It'll be damaged by the rays of the sun and the cosmic radiation that comes in all the time. You'll get through those shields, and we will be suffering the consequences out in the sunlight. So we'll be shielded at that time, which is one of the reasons I think the Bible says that during that time when the sun gets bright, hot, that men will shield themselves in caves and put rocks over the top of them to shield them from what's coming from the sun. Needless to say, this pole shift is occurring when we have a civilization of life on the planet, humans, that have developed high technological processes that depend on the Earth's north-south magnetic field being stable and stationary. So this could affect navigation. It could affect landing, runways at various airports, having to immediately change things, and as they've done in Florida already on one airport, where you get drastic changes in the magnetic field, which a lot of pilots use to land their aircraft. Archaeological, geological digs have seen that clay pottery fired by humans during the last pole reversal, that the grains of the clay were hardened in the fire with a particular orientation, and that orientation was where the magnetic field of the Earth was at that time, and they can see that it reversed since that time. What we have now is different than what they had like 10,000 years ago, according to their dating, but I think it's less, probably around 4,000 to 6,000 years ago. But anyway, those are factors that I would say we consider as immediate and obvious changes that would occur during a magnetic field inversion or reverse, like it's happening.
Okay.
I'm sure there are probably other things like lightning in the sky and super thunderstorms and that kind of stuff as the electric field normalizes to the new orientation.
Okay. Well, that's a lot of good stuff to look forward to. Indeed. Tom writes in wanting to know from you if you've got any updates on CERN, any new concerns? On CERN?
I get it. No new information, no new concerns on my part on CERN.
Okay.
I look at more, solar type phenomenon and planetary type phenomena that are bigger, energy-wise, than CERN. However, the CERN experiment isn't over yet, so let's see what they get up to the rest of the year. Hey, did you guys see that they took this big sea turtle that got hit by the propellers of a boat, and it chopped off his right beak and his jaw, and they printed a titanium jaw for this turtle on one of these 3D printers. They built it up layer by layer of titanium, and then they riveted it to his existing skull and what was left of the jawbone, and now then that turtle can eat and perform functions like normal because he's got this, well, I guess it's like a biological implant. He's I don't know what you call him, a cyborg, but he's certainly got some bionics in there, I guess. I think that's just really cool to help a big turtle like that. These are big boys, and there's a picture of it on our show images page down 3 or 4 rows down, and you can read the article about how they've done that.
The Terminator turtle or it's written here in the Baltimore Sun. Wow. Yeah.
He is like those Terminators. You think about it, it looks like that without the skin over it.
Yeah, really.
Look, I'll tell you what, 3D printing is, boy, it's a misnomer. I think they ought to call it something like Star Trek replicators now then, because they're just doing so many things with 3D printing, layer by layer. They're building up, well, like, one guy in Argentina had a skull fracture. Like when I say fracture, a big hunk of his skull was gone. And they scanned him in 3D and then had a printer and a medical doctor generate a bone piece to fit right in there, but it's like a carbon titanium alloy to fit right into his brain or right onto his skull to protect his brain, and they'll, staple it in or whatever they do, but they'd be able to have a solid skull. Again, I guess you're looking a bit like a Terminator before you put the skin flap over it, but it's wonderful to be able to rebuild tissue like that. And the other thing is, too, I've been reading about these things. They're experimenting with creating organs and tissue, living tissue, by building it up in layers on substrates of various things so that they can regrow your organs. And they can print things now then so small that they can make objects, whether they're conductive or whether little motors or what, that are smaller than a red blood cell. I mean, that's tiny.
Wow.
And they can put those, like nanites, into your body, to do functions to help you. I'm just blown away by all the articles. I mean, if you go on to Google News and just look up, like, 3D printing and see in the last, say, week how many articles are being released on all kinds of stuff being done with, 3D printers. There was one article I read this week about, I think it might be a Chinese company, I'm not sure. I think it is, where they're going to investigate printing substitute rhinoceros horns, because the Chinese medicine stuff uses the rhinoceros horn, but they're going to actually make an artificial rhinoceros horn that's just like the real one, but probably better, I guess. And in China and Vietnam, they'll be using this artificial rhino horn for medicine that will protect the real rhino from poachers and stuff that just kill them for their horns now. They're almost extincting them just for the horns. So this will save, a lot of the poaching on those animals as well. I suppose it might to some degree affect, poaching elephant tusks, killing elephants for that. And there was another article, and those I looked at this week, where some student has designed a printed object. They build it up layer by layer. That's really a camera, like a digital camera, like you cock it and everything. All the pieces and stuff, except for the lens, are made in a 3D printer, the shutter and all that kind of stuff. I think you can do the little reflex mirror at the back, But anyway, look it up. It's an interesting subject. They've got ways to convert your old film camera to a digital camera using 3D printed parts to convert your analog camera to digital. I marvel at this.
I'm not even sure. I know. I mean, you hear the 3D printer, and I automatically think of our desktop printer using paper. I'm trying to. I really haven't looked into it, but I guess I'm trying to, in my mind, understand how a 3D printer works.
Well, I've looked into it. I can use it in my prototyping of some of my research devices. It's quicker than me building it out of foam on the lathe, but that's why I looked into it so much. But you'll see there are several types of 3D, what should we call it, sculpting or 3D creation of things with these devices. And the reason they call them printers is because the early stages of it, what happens is there's a resin that's, a very thin layer of resin, and the head of the thing that's going to make a 3D object moves over this resin and solidifies one little micron thick layer of it in a pattern that you put in. Say you take a coffee cup and you slice it into 1,000 layers, and the first layer is the bottom of the cup, and that layer is hardened in the resin by the ultraviolet head on the, like the printer that scans back and forth, and it hardens it, that little ring that's the bottom of your coffee cup. Then it comes back and they flood a little bit more resin in, and they come over and they put the next layer, which might be a little fatter layer because the ring at the bottom of the cup kind of gets a little bit larger as it goes up. And they do that layer by layer, and after 1,000 layers, they've got a cup.
Right.
And they've now developed ways to do it with metal, so you can have titanium or gold or, various other types of metal objects that are built up, kind of like little groups of atoms at a time and bonded together to make a solid metal object, which, you can make spare gear parts, you can make all kinds of spares. And all you got to do is have one of those printers in your country or your state, and someone can send it over to that one from another country even, and you can replicate a real part that way. organs, human organs, that's really an interesting thing. But all they do is they scan an object, whether it be living or whether it be solid, just inanimate. They scan it and they slice it, like horizontal like a tabletop slice, and they slice it into very fine layers, and they build it up like a CAT scan, or would do. Because if you look at your CAT scans, it's layers, slices of images taken through your body, and if you were to take a CAT scan and make very fine, like a tenth of a millimeter slices through a person's body, which they've done, then you can get an image of the bone structure, and you can tell the 3D printer, okay, print out this guy's insides, his skeletal structure, his organs, and everything else, and they'll have a model of your internal organs and your bones that they can actually reach into after it's solidified, and pull out things and say, okay, here's how big the heart is, and it's next to this aorta, or here's a bullet wound, and here's where the actual bullet is. And they can feel it, see it, and they know when they go in with their laparoscopes, or whether they go in with open surgery, right where to go, what angle, what tools they need to get in and solve the issue. So I just think that this process is really just marvelous. It is the beginning of the Star Trek replicator. You can order your Earl Grey tea in a cup hot with no milk and sugar, and sit there and watch it build up layer by layer. I mean, that's what we're headed for.
How do you clear jams?
Holly says she wants one that'll clean toilets and windows, but
don't we all?
Yeah, I know.
But God bless her.
It's really there are good things happening. It's not all bad news, but sadly we probably won't get to enjoy a lot of this stuff because of the political and situations around the planet.
Yeah, I mean, whatever is made for good is used for bad. I mean, it's human, or it's the nature of humanity, I suppose. But man,
yeah,
wow,
yeah.
A lot of interesting stuff.
Well, just to keep you on your toes there.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with the cameras on cars, and they're going to be able to, Ford's going to be able to use 3D printing to make those cheap cameras to put on their vehicles. And there's been a number of times where I couldn't bend my neck around far enough to see back up the road what's coming when I'm going into a major highway or something from a side road. And you'd think, boy, the camera would be nice, but they're talking about several cameras, which will help new drivers and stuff like that avoid problems. So we're seeing really good developments right now.
Absolutely excellent. Well.
Oh, by the way, that solar filaments image, I've got it up now on the website. It's third row down the middle, and if you have a look at that, I've got it in a slow animated GIF so you can see over the last 4 days those dark filaments are raised up areas, magnetic filaments on the sun, and they I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. It's like a spiral at the end of these things that are like smooth boomerangs, and then they become this filament or the center of this vortex that comes right out of Earth with a real strong M-class flare.
Okay, and yeah, that's animated. Looking at it now.
Click on it. You can click on it, and I don't think, it's all animated, but it's a slow animation that you can stop. It's only like 4 pictures, and just look at those black lines and see what I'm talking about, and know that that's unusual. The sun is doing something different. It's weird.
Signs in the heavens, and there it is.
On the moon, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, have I bamboozled you enough with all kinds of tech stuff?
You've actually graced us with a lot of very interesting, very pertinent information. Yeah, and I'm with you there in the sun, too, looking at it. And just from the time that you've spent with us talking about issues about the sun, I can see where you would have concerns, and I certainly echo those concerns as well. My goodness. Wow.
We appreciate your time, Stan, and all the work you put in and Holly puts in, and we thank you for being around and showing up every week.
Well, thank you guys for doing what you do every day of the week, and for the people that write those questions in that I can't answer sometimes. You can only be spread just so thin over so many topics. So I do apologize that I couldn't answer all the questions this week. But
well, hey, no problem. And folks, Dare to Prepare. That's the go-to reference for your physical preparations, preps of all types. Holly Deyo and Cosmic Conspiracy. Yep, fantastic.
Stan's book, excellent insight on the Bible and prophecy and where we're at, what's going to happen. 2 must-have books in your bookshelf.
And, of course, your
you can get them on Amazon.
Yeah.
You can get them on Amazon as well, and the lecture series on Eden is there. And, there's growing interest in that location of Eden thing over there. I hope that these guys get it all together and organize the film crew and stuff so we can go over there and film in the Garden of Eden. The government over there is finally getting interested, which I guess I was impatient to get people jumping up and down and hollering hoorah last year in July when I discovered it, or June. But now then I'm seeing signs of people saying that what I've been telling them is correct, and it does prove that it's the Garden of Eden. And because of, who was it? Holly, who was it? The minister we were listening to the other day about the how long Adam and Eve stayed in the garden and had children there before they went out of the garden. Do you remember that guy? Was it? No. Anyway. There's a different way to interpret or to look at the details in the book of Genesis that this particular minister did. And I was amazed. I was quite impressed with the way he put facts together from the Bible. He'd read Scripture and show that apparently Adam and Eve may have stayed in the garden, while they had a couple of kids, and then moved out after that. Perry Stone, that's it. He's got a lecture on that, so if you can find that on his website, it'd be good. And if that's the case, it means we should be able to do core samples, hopefully, in a couple of areas we thought about there that are unique in the crater, and find evidence of habitation, in the old garden before they left. I don't know. But anyway, it's developing.
Well, it will definitely keep us posted in terms of any new developments on that, and because our listeners are really interested in that. My goodness! All right, brother. Well, thank you. What a great great time.
And we've been negotiating, or not negotiating, but communicating with a young Christian fellow over there in Arusha, which is just outside the Ngoro crater. And he and his brother will take people on tours through the Ngoro and through the Serengeti. I will be putting up a link to his website here in the near future. It's called El Yon, from the Hebrew El and Yon, for one of the names of God. And that's the name of his tour. And so I've been talking to people in New York that have gone down there, and he and his brother apparently treated them very nicely. And
23rd, 2015, we're going to be taking your phone calls this hour and hitting a little bit of news.
Before we take your phone calls, I just want to say this. The Obama trade deal that is destined to pass. It's a Trojan horse, ladies and gentlemen. It's disguised as free trade. What's in it is seditious, it's treasonous, and everyone that passed this or is supporting it or is saying they like it and it's not going to hurt, it's going to be good for America, should be held up or should be really tried for treason. because gone will be our national sovereignty.
Did you see that they're even trying to push new bills to fill in the gaps of jobs that will be lost over the trade?
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yes, look, Obama has been working on this TPP agreement for the last 5 years, all under the cover of darkness.
And Bush has been working on it since 2006 and beyond.
Yes, absolutely. Look, this is not a partisan. This is not Democrats versus Republicans, because otherwise, you've got Democrats going against Obama, people saying, well, what's that about? And then you got Republicans.
No, these are liquidators versus liquidators.
Exactly. Thank you for that. Oh, very succinct. This is bad for America, bad for our sovereignty. This is the final nail in the coffin. That
good for China.
Good for. Well, everyone should be concerned about this. Not Bruce Bella Jenner or whatever his name is. This is one of the issues that will be lay the groundwork and is laying the groundwork for not only the destruction of our republic, but for the creation of a single global governance. What has happened today and what is happening throughout the rest of the week, well, Obama will have unlimited dictatorial powers to destroy the United States. Okay? There's no way around this. Congress is just voting to give Obama fast-track trade promotion authority to pass this horrendous Trojan horse of the trade agreement. Congress can't even debate about this nor add amendments, and only 51% of the vote is needed to pass it instead of the usual 60%. In other words, cloture. Okay, that's what it's known as.
They said that they took power away from him to give balance.
It's all an illusion. It's all an illusion. You see, by fast-tracking the Trans-Pacific Partnership, that includes language making it a living agreement, is dangerous. It's not only dangerous, it's downright destructive, obviously. It will lead to a permanent ceding of the Senate's authority to ratify treaties. Now, that's all right. And don't even start in terms of, there's this backhanded plan for the 2016 elections. The push to this fast track, it's not about free trade. It's all about consolidation of power. It's about whether it's about Congress giving up their authority, their power. And who in their right mind, having that power, having the authority, having three distinctly different branches of government, what's behind this? Well, I think if you look closely and peel the layers back, you'll find that there is blackmail. I think you'll find that there is guns to the heads of these. Anyone who would dare speak against it. You saw Boehner bully Chavez to knock out Madison on one of the, or was it Madison? On one of the post positions. What you're seeing here is nothing more than a mafia, globalists against everyone else. And here's something that no one else is talking about. You'll not hear that. I have not heard any alternative media talk about this. I think if you pull the layers back on this, you're going to find Heinz Kissinger. That's right. Heinz Alfred Kissinger. I really do. Go back to
who's Heinz? Henry.
I was going to say Heinz. He was born. He was born Heinz Kissinger. And if you go back in time, you will see that Kissinger was behind the opening of China. You'll see. In fact, a great book to get if you're, and you can download this online. Very simply search for Kissinger, The Secret Side of Our Secretary of State. Now, this book is dated 1976 to be exact. written by Gary Allen. Just go ahead and search Kissinger, The Secret Side of Our Secretary of State, and read that book. You'll find out exactly what this individual is all about, and the influence that he has exerted, and the man that this wolf in charge of protecting the sheep. And you know, right at the same time, we also have we're awaiting the decision by the Supreme Court on homosexual marriage. And I want to make an announcement. I have gotten many alternative names for that, as I requested last time we spoke about this, and I've been going through each and every one of them. I've printed numerous ones out. We're still looking at the emails. Thank you for those emails. In other words, requesting some sort of, as we call Obama, Barry Soetoro is a real name, Barry Soetoro, renegade in chief, because of renegade being his Secret Service name. Kind of a quirky phrase, not president, not putative president, but renegade in chief. So too are we looking for a kind of a pithy descriptive phrase for homosexual marriage, which is an oxymoron by itself. But here we have the sovereignty of the United States getting just blown out of the water by the sellouts, and don't even think that you're protected, Republicans, Democrats. And I laugh at 2016. We're going to get them in 2016. How'd that work out for you in the last 2, 3, 4, 20 elections? Huh? How'd that work out for us? Real fine, right? It didn't.
It would. I mean, it didn't, but it wouldn't have mattered.
It wouldn't have. Well, it doesn't matter, because there are two parties, us and them. And you see them, the 535 dweebs, plus the 9 robed renegade judges, and the occupants of the Oval Office, which they're going to have to take a fire hose to the White House and the Capitol. Really, they're going to have to take a fire hose in order to. It's going to take weeks to fumigate the Capitol and the White House. It really, and the Supreme Court. It's going to take. It's going to take longer than we've got. It really is, because what they've done to this country and what we've allowed them to do is obscene, seditious, treasonous. And I don't want to rant. I really don't. I don't mean to rant. You can tune in other places, and it's not about ranting. It's about in this case righteous anger. And I think that if you don't have the righteous anger, I don't think you're paying attention. And that's why the first hour we brought Ryan Sorba on. And if you missed the first hour, folks, Ryan Sorba took some covert videotape. Homosexual militants. Now, I know. I'm going to get all sorts of emails. They don't bother me, I guess, but I acknowledge them only because the homosexual militants out there, the activists who are really militant behind this homosexual agenda are vicious. They're absolutely vicious. See, you speak the truth. And Coach Dave Dobmeyer says this, when I can never get it right. Truth becomes hate speech because people hate the truth, or when people hate the truth becomes hate speech. There you go. And so I know the blowback on this, and I know, and folks, you don't have to worry about Ryan. He's very well protected, and the investigative work product that he has done is very well spread out. So, I got a couple of emails, people saying, Ryan opened his mouth before, putting out the video. Trust me, the video will come out regardless. And, it speaks to the not just the immorality, but the debauchery and the militancy behind this agenda, which we're getting hit from all sides. You're getting hit from the sovereignty side, smashing our national sovereignty. You're getting hit from the morality, the God side, the anti-Christian side, and I'll say this too. Maybe next year at this time, maybe next year at this time, we won't be able to speak out or speak about homosexual marriage because it'll be a hate crime. Maybe next year at this time there won't be a program like this because it'll be unlawful to talk about things like this because we don't want to inflame the sentiment. We don't want to offend those people, offend the sensibilities of the perverse. And I say perverse deliberately. Because what will come out on that video, trust me when I say this, it's perverse. It's beyond perverse, and it's sickening. It's repulsive. It's repugnant. In the tolerance, and I saw a video earlier. I don't know who put this out. I don't even want to go there because it's just it. But look, we're in a position right now where the very salvation or the very future of our country is at stake. And I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure if we're going to make it as a country. I'm not so sure if we're going to make it to the next election. I'm not. And somebody had sent me an email saying I sounded sad about not being able to leave the country. I'm not sad at all. I'm sad about the state of our country. God hasn't given me the urge to flee, leave, do something from somewhere else. I've got no desire to go anywhere. And you know what? I'll bet you 95%, 98% of our listeners out there, you people listening to this, would it be practical for you to leave the country? Probably not. You got family, you've got to take care of. You've got bills to pay. You can't. It's just not practical. And those people who do flee, leave, run, whatever, think they're running away. They're going to run from this? Yeah, you're not going to run from this. You're not going to run from what's coming. So that's why, in being behind enemy lines, if that's where God puts us, then we fight together, don't we? We're all in this together. You're not alone. I don't care if you live alone. I don't care if you live with 50 people and you feel alone. You're not alone. The other thing I want to mention, too, all of this news can get really pretty hot and heavy and weigh you down. And, perspective. Perspective is important. And sometimes when things get too overwhelming or seems like too overwhelming, you've got to know where to turn, and of course, Christians know where to turn. A good book, folks, Prepare for Persecution. I was talking to Greg Jackson today, and Greg Jackson said, if the Supreme Court rules in favor of homosexual unions, it's our duty as Christians to push on our governors and magistrates and the officials not to ignore, it's a law against God is no law at all. It's not a legitimate law. Let me just grab his book here, page 65, I think, 40 things to teach your children before you die. Real quick here. Okay, here it is. St. Thomas Aquinas, any law contrary to God's law is no law at all. St. Peter, we must obey God rather than man. Sir William Blackstone, no enactment of man can be considered law unless it conforms to the law of God. Page 65, chapter 31. God has defined right and wrong. That from 40 things to teach your children before you die. I was talking to Greg earlier today about what you do. Okay, so what happens to Christians who are subjugated by some Supreme Court decision, and it's not law. It's not law. No, Greg says no. It's hey Doug. In fact, I think if he was here, he would smack me upside the head with his book. It's not law at all. Because any law contrary to God's law is not a law. There's no law at all. So we press on the governors. But what do you? And I said, but what do you do? What do we do as people? What do we do? Like just the average guy, the average woman, the average person out there. What do we do? You know what he said? He says, well, I think you know the answer to that. Maria Canise wrote a book, Prepare for Persecution. Yeah, prepare for persecution. That's what you do. This isn't a sales pitch for Prepare for Persecution, but I'll tell you what, maybe it should be. Because the first part of that book tells you the problem, and the second part of that book tells you the answer. Along with Greg Jackson's book, 40 Things to Teach Your Children Before You Die. We're going to dig in, folks. We're in this together. This is a fight, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but I'm not going to yell and scream and rant and rave and say, hey, it's over. Because it's not over yet. I mean, Coach Dave Dobmeyer, America's coach. Hey, where there's still time left on the clock. Yeah, it might look pretty bleak. Right? It might look pretty bleak. We might be down by a couple of touchdowns. And time's running out. Dobmeyer's America's coach. But who owns the team? God owns the team. It makes a big difference.
Let's go to the phones. Let's hear what our listeners have to say tonight. We're going to go to area code 786. 786, we're going to start with you. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Good evening, Doug and Joe.
Hey.
I'll talk to you guys again. Hey, I hope you guys are doing well tonight. Then I kind of got in late on halfway through Stan, so I didn't get to hear the first hour, so I'm not sure what y'all were talking about, but I've been listening to what you just said, and Lord really moved me to give another call. I know I call somewhat regularly. I hope you guys don't get tired of me.
You're banned.
Praise God again for you guys. And
thank you.
Just taking what you just said.
That's soup for you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What y'all were just saying, and I know that God's going to talk to each one of us and put us where He wants us to be. That's always the case because God's sovereign over us, and He's going to definitely have us where we need to be when we need to be there, and for whoever people we're supposed to be there with. I do try to reconcile knowing that God's going to move people at different times, because we talked about this last week or the last time I called, that it does, like I brought up the last time, it does say in Revelations about Mystery Babylon to come out of her. And so that's kind of a direct instruction to come out of her. And what God pressed on my mind is, we talked about if, we're all the Christians, if God's going to get us all together at some point in time, and you guys told me that, probably it's going to kind of naturally, God's going to move everybody into areas together so that we can support each other and help each other out during the coming persecution. So what I was wanting to know is, God pressed this on my mind, and this is not to put anybody on the spot that may be listening, but God's pressed it on my heart that it's time that maybe everybody can get together. You can have a guest on to talk about it, and it's not that those who've been blessed with more money than others are necessarily responsible for the other people. We are our brother's keeper, but should we start looking into pulling money together to bring
people who can't, Christian brothers and sisters who can't afford it, who are for one reason or another disability, or everybody's been, a lot of people have lost their jobs because of our government, and pulling money and not just burden a few people that may be millionaires that are Christians, but pulling the money together, starting up some sort of fund to help Christians get together if there's a place to go. I think that we can come out of the Babylon system. I think it's multiple levels. When Jesus tells John, that come out of her, my people, I think that, America is a physical manifestation of the last Babylonian Empire.
There's also
and then there's
too.
a spiritual. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's no. I see where you're going with this. With respect to the first part of what you said, I really think that a prayer is the answer. Look, I don't think that necessarily. I don't think to answer the first part of this or address the first part of what you said, I don't think that is going to be necessary, because I do believe it'll be a clear cut for Christians who are paying attention, who are in prayer, who are prayer fasting, understand, plugged in, whether they're debilitated or impaired or otherwise, unable to do whatever they need to do. I think there will be help available by other Christians, like-minded Christians, number one. Number two, I think that Mystery Babylon could not only just be a physical location, but a system. And, when I say that, you've got to get yourself out of the system, and that's easier said than done. It's going to place a lot of hardship. But I think that system is going to be global. And what do? You're going to eat crickets and twigs in Central America? Is that what we're going to do? Nothing against people who live in Central America, but I think we have to look at I think this is bigger than people are really comprehending. This is not geographically specific just to America. This is worldwide, and you might buy some more time by a different geographical location, but you're still going to be in that system, in the globalist system, ultimately. So anyway, that's my feeling. Mystery Babylon system, as well as perhaps as well as a location.
Well, definitely, Doug. I mean, I agree with you 100%. It is the Babylonian system, from my studies and what God has shown me in His Word, is basically three parts. It's an economic system, maybe even four parts. It's economic, it's a social system, it's a governmental system, and then it's a false religion system, which encompasses, unfortunately, some of the organizations that label themselves Christian, and then, of course, the Eastern mysticism and all of the other fake religions out there, Islam and all that. So that is the Babylonian system. We might as well call it the Babylonian matrix. It is. All of that has been set up by Satan, the fallen ones at the beginning, Tower of Babel, and the ones that came down and corrupted mankind and the earth, and showed mankind all of these different things, like making weapons of war, what the Book of Enoch says. And they created this system, handed off the power to an elite few back then, that were called priests or whatever, and they got to keep the hidden knowledge. So you're absolutely right as far as you can't come out, you got to come out for completely, and I've said before, there's going to come a time where, I've said for a while that I'm kind of tired of feeding the beast, and when I say that, I'm talking about taxes, stop feeding the beast and pull the money out to bleed it, and get it out, pull our support out of it. But, there is going to come a time where you can't, as a Christian, you can't take the mark, so you won't be able to pay taxes, you won't be able to interact in this system, and that'll be part of the coming out. So I agree with you there. I just didn't know if maybe, we got to watch out for the ones that are less, our Christian brothers and sisters that are less fortunate than us, and maybe figure out some sort of way of helping. I would hate to find out that, you got Christians, brothers and sisters who are handicapped, handicapped veterans and or mentally handicapped, and they're just out there hanging by themselves. When maybe we could come to their aid. God could use us to come to their aid. So it's just something to throw out there for everybody.
I believe God will do that, and I don't believe it's going to be. I don't believe it needs to be organized. And as Coach Dave Dubmeyer says, it's not an organization; it's an organism. When he refers to the Salt and Light Brigade, and I think that's kind of the way it's going to turn out. It's going to be more of an organic movement that people will be helping their brothers in Christ and sisters in Christ. I do believe that, and I don't think it's going to be organized. But God bless you, man. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of good points.
Well, thank you. And I did want to bring up one other thing. I don't want to hog the time, but I did want to bring out a part of what CERN, what's going on at CERN, and what's going on with Jade Helm. That is, they correspond with each other. Is Jade Helm, as we already know, is an artificial intelligence system, right?
That's right.
Basically, we're talking about Skynet going live. When I refer back to the Terminator movies, Skynet's going to be going live in July. But they can. I'll just say this. I won't tell you what my exact specialty is as far as technology, but I will tell you this: AI cannot exist without a spiritual component to enable it. And when I say that, I'll let you guys go now, and I'm going to send y'all an email with some details. I'll just let you know now, there's an interface that will allow demonic forces to empower the computer AI systems. It's not going to be just ones and zeros. We're talking about a spiritual connection, and CERN was set up to find that connection. But I will let you guys go, and you guys may already know what I'm talking about there.
I do, yeah. We'll be talking with Nathan Leal on Friday about this as well, and we'll have a special guest on Thursday talk about the documentation behind this, indeed. So,
God bless you.
Fantastic. God bless you guys, and thank you.
All right.
Have a great night.
You too.
All right, we're going to move right along to area code 210. 210, you're up next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hi, I was almost hoping Stan was still listening because he was talking a lot about the unusual behavior of the sun. A lot of spectral light changes due to UV frequencies, that sort of thing. I've been putting together a little book, as a matter of fact, that picks up on that theme, and it's actually quoting a verse out of Isaiah. Which points to a mini nova event that happens.
And is that in 45? Isaiah 45?
No, it's Isaiah 30, actually. It's just two verses, if you'd like me to read it.
Sure.
It's Isaiah 30, 25, 26. It's kind of the basis of my little nascent book. It's 25 says, "In the day of great slaughter, when the towers fall, streams of water will flow on every high mountain and every lofty hill. The moon will shine like the sun, and the sunlight will be 7 times brighter, like the light of 7 full days, when the Lord binds up the bruises of his people and heals the wounds he inflicted." So it seems to speak of this a small, blow-off of a, upper layer of the atmosphere on the sun that causes a, high reflectivity on the surface of the moon, where it actually looks like the sun, and it's 7 times brighter than it normally is. So, I've got about 15,000 words written. I think a book needs to be about 75,000 words. Maybe.
In Enoch, it says the same thing. People will take it or leave it, but the book of Enoch describes the sun being 7 times brighter and the moon being 7 times brighter in the last days.
There you go. Well, there's some corroboration. Enoch is found in the Egyptian or the Ethiopian Coptic Bible. It's not too many times in the ones over here, but
right.
It's certainly referenced to Jude. But anyway, I thought Stan might be want to pick up on it someday. Take a look at my manuscript.
He very well might still be listening, and if you want to contact him directly, he's approachable. Just send him an email to Stan at standale.com. Guarantee you he'll respond.
I'll do that. I think the sun is in a ridiculously quiet phase. It's in sun solar cycle 24, and it's very strange in that the solar cycle has been a minimum really for almost the entire time, which almost suggests it's getting ready to really pop a cork.
Nice. Something tells me I don't want to see that, but we might just be seeing that.
Kind of ties Revelation chapter 16 talks about that's when really Revelation chapter 16 is when global warming really happens. By the way, that's when it actually occurs. Is in
Interesting.
The 16th chapter.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Thanks for the call. All right, brother.
Yeah.
Have a great night. 4.5 minutes left. Let's go to area code 604. 604, we're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. 604? There we go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Sorry.
Yep.
That was my fault.
Yeah, sorry. My name is Debbie. I talked with you a couple months ago. I just was commenting on the caller before last. I'm just calling in to he was mentioning something about people are being called to gather. God's putting them in certain places and so on and so forth. And you mentioned a little while back that you knew of people that are just up and leaving and just going wherever God's telling them to go. And I'm just calling to let you know that as of next, I'll be homeless for the first time in my life because, no place to go and so on and so forth. And I just figure, well, I guess I've got a calling of sorts. My hardship is that I've got so many dogs. I'm the animal trainer outside Vancouver, British Columbia. And you put me in touch with John of HH Connections last time we spoke. And, it was interesting talking to him. But
how may I ask what would cause? I mean, and you don't have to be. Respecting your privacy.
And we have 3 minutes.
Okay. It pains me to hear that you're going to be homeless.
Of sorts. I may have a motorhome that I might be able to use for a while, but it's just hard when I've got a number of dogs, which I know that you're an animal sympathizer and you can realize my situation. Most of my dogs are seniors, and so it's just hard to find homes for the seniors.
Would you mind sending sending me and carbon copying John an email, kind of just giving us a thumbnail sketch of what's going on, just so we. I mean, if there's any way we can help you, I can do that. I was just commenting that, because it stuck in my head when you mentioned a few shows back that people are just up and leaving and going just someplace, and that's what I feel like I'm doing is just. I don't know where I'm going, but I guess it's a calling. I work in the film industry and I can't buy a job. And I talked to John about it, and I noticed, I worked on the X-Files for the 5 years that they were here originally, back when in the late 90s. And I noticed that they're starting up again, and I put a call in to Chris Carter. I know Chris Carter, the creative and executive producer, director, writer of X-Files, and anyway, I just thought it would be nice to get back on the show, but it would also be nice to be a part of the conception team, because I'm sure you may have remembered the X-Files. It was rather a dark show, but it would be nice to put some storylines in there pertaining to the end times, to a lot of the stuff that Russ Dizdar talks about, and Marzulli and the whole group, because it fits right in with their. You have an interesting background. I got to say that having talked with you before, I understand where you're coming from. Very interesting, and I do hope that even though the Hollywood movie industry, whether it's in Hollywood or Vancouver, it's very dark. And however, you could be a sunshine ray of hope in that. Please send the email. We're at the close of the show. I hate to cut you off like this, but we got to do that.
That's fine. That's fine.
God bless.
Yeah, no, thank you for picking up, and I just wanted to just make that little footnote and love your show, and God bless you, and
all right,
and Joe for your work, and listen to your show every day. So
all right,
anyway,
thank you. We'll be looking for the email. We'll correspond more. All right, folks.
Yeah, I don't have internet here, so I'll post it tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay,
folks,
thank you.
that'll do it for tonight. Tomorrow night, John Robertson,
Hollywood Insider, Hollywood and the Occult. Thursday,
DJ from she's a computer programmer.
And Friday, we will have Nathan Liao on. Until tomorrow, stay safe, God bless, and have a great night.
Good night.